used to our chairman.
I have the pleasure of introducing you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for having
coming.
me.
Great pleasure.
So it's on the record, clearly.
So they told him that.
Yeah, he was being interviewed by Andrew Mitchell.
I think the time will never be as slow as it has been.
Schinas, the Vice President of the EU Commission, in charge of security. And I'm not sure whether you looked up the homepage of the Commission very recently. What you will find is a very well and nicely described vision of each commissioner. And all the duties and responsibilities are described very well. And when you read Mr. Schinas' vision and idea is promoting our European way of life. That includes a security union. And probably we're going to hear something after I speak from you. So it's a great honor to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. We also expect another guest. There were a little bit flight problems. Mr. José Angel Gurria, the Secretary General of the OECD. He will come sometime soon, and he will speak later as well. And it's also a great pleasure to have the OECD here, because the OECD is aiming for better policies for better life. And I think nowadays, it's not just a sound objective. I think it's needed to make our life better, because the digital society offers a lot of opportunities, but it also requires that we have the right policies behind. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Mr. Yashida Nakayama, State Secretary of the Foreign Ministry of Japan. Thank you very much for coming. Konnichiwa, yokoso. So, in that sense, I would like to also welcome you as dear fellow colleagues. Dear fellow colleagues, I'm speaking to all of you now, independent of hierarchy, independent from where you are, because we all have one and the same objective. That is to make this world a little bit a better place, in particular with all the changes we're actually foreseeing, often driven through technology and often driven through political change. That is the thing we have in common here. That's the reason why we are here. That's the reason why we want to have debates. That's the reason why we want to hear opinions, new issues, old issues, but also proposals on what we can do in actually to promote that objective. For that, we also need to have capable moderators. They sit in front of me here. It's Oliver Roelofs. Oliver is a person with long experience in politics, in business, in communication. You were involved in the main conference for over 15 years, so you know what's going on. So we have a demanding, let's say, audience here. You have to do a good job, right, Tyson? That's the same for you. So we have a second moderator, Tyson Barker. You are you are a deputy director and fellow of the Aspen Institute in Berlin for 3 years now. You have speciality, which is digitalization and transatlantic relations, which we all observe very closely. So I hope you bring some input here too. So you will run the show later. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here. So before we move on with the main part, let me quickly set the scene for this conference here today. We choose the title, Fail Safe, Act Brave, Building a Secure and Resilient Digital Society. For thousands of years, tangible things, assets, have been the driving force in our societies. And that actually drove the societies which we're living in, protected by walls, by borders, physically. And the digital world really has changed that. The technical innovation we saw over the last 3 decades created something which is virtual values, not just physical values. And these virtual values are not really tangible. But we all go with the digital infrastructures and with our digital identities into this world. And that world has not the same protection as the physical world. It has a different kind of protection. And the vulnerabilities in this world changes very fast. And as it changes very fast, we have to think, A, what are the root causes, why it changes fast, and B, what we can do. That's what we hope for to find input here today. Let me outline a few reasons why I believe it will accelerate even faster. If you look at the last decade, from 2010 to 2020, we saw a lot of changes. I think the time will never be as slow as it has been. The decade to 2030 will even accelerate. Just look at the global spend for innovation. It is over 2,000 billion, 2 trillion, spent in innovation and R&D. $580 billion come from the United States. In the meantime, 520 from China, followed by Japan, 180. Germany is the only country from the EU under the top 5 with round about 120. So, having United States with 580, having China with 520, Europe altogether, 400. Actually, it makes good reason that Europe cooperates. It makes good reason that Europe cooperates. And the technological race is on, because it's not just a race on having the best technology, but it's also a race on who is having the best technology. And that makes it a bit complicated. Yeah? So if that span goes on and it increases year by year, that is one of the root causes why it gets faster. A second point to look at is of how policies are being made today. And what we see is that policy making, Mr. Schinas, we just spoke about it very briefly, of course, can often only react. It's very difficult to be proactive in policy making. But if the world is technology fueled, if it is not undermined with technological competence and input, how can we be confident that we see the consequences and the benefit of certain technologies as we move ahead? So we must enrich policy making with technological input. I think otherwise we maybe fail. And if you think that a bit further down the line, then we still are the same people like 30 years back. We still live in the same governments. We still live in the same infrastructures. The rules are often still the same. So how can we make sure that we actually catch up with today's world and that we make the policies, which are technology, in the technology-driven world, so that it fits to today's society, so that we can fill the objective we have, build a secure and resilient digital world. I would hope to see a lot of input here today, because that's what we're here for. I think the audience is perfect for that. I like the small setup with content-rich discussions, not the big shows. Here we have content-rich discussions, so that we all contribute here today to a better, resilient, and secure digital world. I wish you all a good conference here today, and I wish you good inputs. And now I would like to ask our special guest of honor, Mr. Schinas, to take the floor. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good conference.
Dear Chairman Wintergerst, Minister Nakayama, distinguished guests, this is my first Munich conference, and I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the European Commission. And this year the conference comes right at the time when the new political cycle in Brussels is kicking into full gear. Last year, this conference was opened by Sir Julian King, who was proved to be the last British commissioner in Brussels. But at the same time, Sir Julian was the first one to bring together all elements of European Union security policies under the single roof of a security union, of a security ecosystem, if you like, which is now the basis on which the new team will be building for the next 5 years. President von der Leyen has maintained and reinforced this structure and gave me the opportunity to work on security policies in a holistic and modern way. Dear friends, every person in the European Union has the right to feel safe, safe in their streets and their homes. Every operator, too, in the market should be in a position to protect their businesses from cyber attacks. And society at large should be in a position to reap the benefits of technology, minimizing the risks attached to it. It is not a secret that we're living in an age with increasingly complex cross-border and cross-sectorial security threats emerging every day, highlighting the need for closer cooperation on security at all levels. In this very complex ecosystem, Europe is and should remain an anchor of stability in a world that is becoming increasingly more unstable and unpredictable. As the chairman just said, as Vice President of the European Commission, my new role will be to ensure that all the elements of a Europe that protects and a Europe that empowers work seamlessly together. A Europe that delivers on its promise to protect our internal market with a genuine security union, which is a shield, but also with a set of policies for mobility, investment, and technological progress, which is an asset. There has been significant progress in the last years, and now, in the years to come, we will intensify our efforts. But the reality is that Europe's approach to security remains fragmented. And it remains fragmented across a host of different policy areas and remains fragmented across certain levels of policy making. Digital growth and rapid technological development create enormous opportunities, challenges, but also threats. And we have been discussing that before. It is not a secret that the technological time and the time of science is, as a general rule, much faster than the political time, the time of politics. Cyber attacks are one of the top 10 global risks for the next decade, according to the WEF Global Risks Report for this year. But at the same time, this globality of threat makes it very clear that no country is capable of tackling this challenge alone. Enhanced cooperation between our member states and more coordinated investments in the field of cybersecurity are of paramount importance to address this very complex issue and to continue building EU's resilience against cyber attacks. We will be working in the years to come to establish these kinds of synergies between all kinds of stakeholders, member states, the private sector, civil society, and academia. And what we're doing here today, I think it's a very promising start. In the last 5 years, when it comes to protecting our economy and society from cybersecurity risks, the EU had made progress. We have not only witnessed the adoption of the first pieces of EU legislation on cybersecurity, but we have also brought cooperation between member states in this field to an entirely new level. I must also say at this time that in this work, we in Europe, and in Brussels in particular, we very often feel rather alone in this battle. Unfortunately, it is becoming increasingly clear that not all regions in the world share the vision of an open, free, fair, stable, and secure cyberspace, where fundamental freedoms and values as we know them in Europe are respected. More and more, state actors are more willing to employ cyber tools to achieve geopolitical goals. And we, as a European Union, will have to adapt to the geopolitical realities and the evolving threat landscape by developing new and adequate responses to these threats, and by making the most not only of our values, but of existing legal framework to protect our values. As far as I am concerned, in this field, the era of innocence, some say naivete, is over in Europe. We have already seen the benefits of coordinating our efforts both in identifying risks, but also in identifying solutions action. And I'll have a chance to say a few words on our work on 5G networks in a few moments. So we will continue focusing on improving cooperation and information sharing amongst our member states in all these areas. And we need to switch from a need to know to a need to share attitude amongst the member states of the Union. And this will be the role of the Joint Cyber Unit, an emblematic initiative announced by President von der Leyen this summer in her political guidelines. We have also already announced that this year we'll review the existing directive on security of networks and information systems, also known as NIS directive, which was the first cybersecurity law in the European Union, the first attempt to create a culture of protection of critical infrastructures, including energy, banking, healthcare, but also digital services providers. We are doing this through a culture of reporting of incidents so that we can learn more from each other and understand our vulnerabilities, but also from a culture of responsibility so that states and private actors share and identify what approaches we need to apply and where we can do more to maximize opportunities and minimize threats. This work is vital because it's about protecting our market, a market which is connected and interdependent and where anyone is always as strong as its weakest link. This work of updating our NIS rules will be undertaken in parallel with another revision of what we call European Critical Infrastructure Directive, because there the aim would be also to update very old rules on cross-sectorial legislation on physical infrastructure of critical importance. This is a moment where Europe would need to align fully the protection of our digital and physical critical infrastructures. There can be no asymmetry in the way we protect our citizens. And together with our Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, we will continue to proceed to implementing a certification network we adopted last year. This agency allows us to avoid fragmentation of regulation at EU level and promote a cybersecurity culture in Europe and with our partners around the globe. We have also proposed to set up, and I hope that this will be done as soon as possible in the new Commission mandate, to set up a European Cybersecurity Industrial Technology and Research Competence Center. This new competence center will help strengthen European cybersecurity capacities, shielding our economy and society from attacks, maintaining research excellence and society and competitiveness of our EU industry. And this effort is something that is now relatively urgent. Finally, next week, I'm confused with continuous traveling. Next week, next Wednesday, the Commission will launch a major consultation on artificial intelligence, a technology that can be used against, but also for security. It can provide tools for detecting attacks, but it can also be used by malicious actors to multiply them. In our societies, other our families and friends, in the years to come, we have to live with a new friend, or rather a frenemy, which will be called algorithms. And the way we go about algorithms that will shape a new reality will have to be framed now. And this frame has to be done at the European level, because this is precisely what Europe knows how to do well. We may not have air carriers or fighter jets, but we can still frame policy development at a common base to facilitate society and economy. On 5G, we will also continue to play a key role in the way these technologies will be developed. We need to ensure that 5G networks are secure and resilient against increasing cyber attacks and incidents. And this is particularly true for infrastructures such as energy, transport, financial, and health. You will certainly know that together with our member states, we have worked to produce and presented 10 days ago a toolbox for mitigating measures and plans designed to address effectively all major risks associated to 5G networks, such as criminal hacking, espionage, and sabotage, in a coordinated and European way. By 2030, 5G technology will promote the emergence of 500 billion interconnected devices in Europe. Practically everything will be connected to everything, and everything will be connected to everyone. This new reality is almost here. So the way we go about risks and opportunities associated to this new world is for us to do, and is for us to do now. Let me now turn to cybercrime. We also need to step up our efforts if we want to make sure that our authorities can keep up with a high level of adaptability and flexibility employed by those who attack us. We tackle cybersecurity aspects not only in civilian but also in the defense domain, and we have our law enforcement agencies like Europol doing very effective work in this area. Cyber defense is also an important aspect of our defense capabilities, and as such, it is part of our work program, both as the Commission, but also in view of the creation of the new European Defence Fund, which we have proposed and which we have proposed to provide with an important financial level of about 13 billion euros for the next 7 years, so that we can concentrate, simplify, and rationalize the very often inexplicably expensive research that we pay across Europe on arms and equipment. Cybersecurity is also critical on our work on hybrid threats. The Commission recently worked on the security of our elections and helped our EU member states to learn how to make their national systems more resistant, more resilient. And we had a first success, because thanks to this work, for the first time, the European elections last summer were, which is, by the way, the second biggest electoral process on the planet after the Indian elections. For the first time, the European elections were protected from disinformation, misinformation, and hybrid threats. We need to continue working in this area with cooperation, investments in equipment, in infrastructure, but also investments in the necessary skills and knowledge. The quest for more skills in Europe that match the needs in this area is a fundamental component for building our strength. Europe, in the years to come, will need a skills revolution in the digital economy. a major wave of investments, national, European, and a major wave of investments and incentives to attract the people we need and the people that we currently do not have. Unless we succeed in this skills revolution, we will not be able to make it, not in security union, but also on technology development. And finally, I have left for the end something that is probably the most precious commodity in the area of security and goes beyond infrastructure, competence, skills, people, networks. And this is trust. We need trust to build a true security union in Europe. Trust amongst ourselves, trust amongst member states, trust amongst member states at Brussels, trust among industry, civil society, and policy making. As far as we are concerned, and I had the chance to explain this to many of my institutional interlocutors, some of them present here, as far as we are concerned, our work on this security union work stream will never be a work that will aim to duplicate or replace work that is done effectively at national level. We will not do that. But we will do everything we can to make our member states, our agencies, industry, and civil society see that we are here to multiply. We are here to provide added value. And we're here to activate networks and the communality of you, which is crucial at this moment. So, what we are doing here today and what is about to follow, because I saw the program and I'm particularly impressed by the richness and the diversity of the different angles with which you will be discussing cybersecurity today. So, this is an excellent start. Actually, I think this is the best ever possible start I would have in my new job in charge of Security Union. It is a fantastic opportunity for us not only to share with you our thoughts, but also to listen and to learn. So I wish you all a fruitful afternoon, and I invite you to stay close to us, work with us, and start then cybersecurity with us. Many thanks.
Germany is the only country from the EU under the top 5 with
To reap the benefits of technology, minimizing the risks attached to it. The political time, the time of politics. Cyber attacks on cybersecurity, but we have also brought cooperation between member states in this field. We'll be working in the years to come to establish these kinds of synergies between